Hello everyone again. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let me introduce myself. I am Sahar Taman. I work for American Councils for International Education. American Councils administers the YES program, as you know, and it works with other partners all over the world. You are probably familiar with these partners. One of them is Ahmed East, one of them is iEarn, one of them is AFS. So these are all partners on the YES program. However, American Councils administers it. One of the things that we do is we create YES alumni programming, and American Councils again works with partners to create that programming. One of the programs we have, as you may have heard of, is the grants program. You'll also have heard of YES alumni workshops and other types of YES alumni events. So this grants program is an annual program where we provide grants, and we'll talk about how much and etc. for YES alumni. And the idea is that YES alumni are very powerful. They are people who have been transformed by their experience living in the United States, and that they want to better their communities. And I've seen that to be very, very true. The grants program provides the funding for a project that a YES alumni creates, designs the project, goes through writing a grants proposal. And that's what we'll be talking about today. What are the requirements for this grants proposal? And what are the elements that could help your proposal? Let me also ask at this time that if you have questions, go ahead and answer them. I think I will, because there's only 4 of us on at this point, 4 of you on, well, I think we lost Hanan. Go ahead and ask the questions through the chat, and I will do my best to answer them. And if there are other questions at the end, we'll answer them also. Okay, we're going to start with our presentation, so I'm going to switch slides. You'll still see that the chat box is there to the side. And also you'll see here there's a files in the bottom right hand corner. There's a little files box, and there you will find 2 files. One of them is this presentation, so you can always download this. The other one is the actual grant application in the fillable format. I'm going to talk about how you can do the grants application, and we prefer it's done online. However, sometimes you may not be able to have continued internet access to complete the application online, so you can complete it in a Word document, this Word document, and email it. So one of the things we'll talk about is the ACE system and the interface for. Okay, so we have the YES Alumni Grants Program. It's administered by American Councils, and it's funded by the Department of State. I think most of you are familiar with that. So there are 2 kinds of grants that you can apply for or write a proposal for. Both of them have the same application. The first one is an individual grant. So it is possible that for up to $250, which is the maximum for the individual grant, you can do a small project. It's also possible that you may need to do your own professional development, such as going to a conference, traveling to a conference, and you might need $250 to supplement what you're doing. Please keep in mind the timeline, which we'll talk about. So this has to be at least in July, because if you're going to a conference soon, this will not go through the evaluation process by then. one of the reasons that we're looking for that if you do go to a personal conference or a personal event, that we hope that you'll be able to come back and share that with other YES alumni. So that is the reason we are supporting this individual and personal development. Most of the grants that are submitted are group grants. That's a second category. And you will find that you can apply for up to $3,000. However, you will be writing a budget. It has to be, clear and justifiable. So it may not be $3,000. You may apply for $1,000 or $1,500, or more specifically, a very specific number, $1,375 or something, depending on your budget. These are team projects that fit the goals of the YES program, and we'll talk about those goals. Many of you already know those goals. Serving your community is a large umbrella here. When we talk about a group, not everyone has to be part of the YES alumni community. However, the lead or co-lead must be a YES alum. So the grant will be given to a YES alum who is the grantee and is responsible for the project. But if there are no other YES alum around you, or you want to do this project at university, you can get a group of people from the university. The projects, however, must take place in a YES country. What I mean by that is a country where the YES program is administered or was administered. But that doesn't mean you have to be there. So if you are from Sierra Leone, but you're studying in Senegal, go ahead and apply. You want to do your project in Senegal. If you are from Sierra Leone and are studying in Niger, no, you're not eligible. We're not supporting projects at this time in Niger. Okay? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some examples of grants by looking at last year's and even the year before that awards, grant awards. Just this year alone, so since 2014, about this time last year when we had this webinar, similar webinar, there have been 22 projects awarded. As I mentioned, the alumni is the grantee of the project, so you will receive it, and that is who's responsible for all the reporting, all the accounting, as well as carrying out the project. We had projects in different areas, and I attempted to categorize them. So we have a lot of projects that are working on educational and job skills, also social entrepreneurism, that's a part of that. We have projects on environmental activism. We have public health activism, and a lot of projects just for the promotion of community service. If you take a look at this article, you'll see an article at the end of the 2013 grants program. Actually, there were 13 grants in that program. And if you want to just take a look at photos, there's photos on the YES Facebook page, Youth Exchange and Study. And you'll find albums on 2013 grants, 2014 grants, something called TLT grants. So you'll get a sense of the grants that your fellow alumni are doing. I'm just going to go quickly through some of these projects. So here are some of the educational skills projects. The idea is to give you an idea of what's being done. In Lebanon, there's a public library, the first one in a small town that one of the alumni wants to do. There's career development for high school students in Liberia, and actually it's very specific to a high school where students don't have career ideas. Kenya, there's a support of an orphanage, which is actually an ongoing project already. So this was a project that was already started by YES alumni, and they applied for funds to continue that project, get funds. So that's another area to consider. Is there a project already going on that you'd like to provide resources for because you want to grow the project and there aren't any resources? Nigeria, we have computer education, a lot of computer education. We just recently had a book drive completed again in a town in Nigeria, there is a project that you may have heard of, and that's in Pakistan, created by a YES alumni with her own resources in the beginning, several years ago in 2009, and only since 2014 has she received funds for this. Only since 2014. There was a program in Pakistan, a project in Pakistan for promoting educational opportunities for underprivileged children. And in South Africa, they put up a new library in a really small town, first library in that town. So environmental activism, what are kinds of projects? So one can be as easy as this one in Cameroon, and not as easy, but as the idea is to focus on just awareness and education. Another type of project is more specific. In Egypt, one alum is a hiking aficionado. He loves hiking. So he created, he's working on a project on trail development and management in the Sinai. Because there are a lot of hikers, but he's saying the trails are not right, they're actually dangerous, and he's working with the Bedouin tour guides to help them improve their tourism skills. In Morocco, there was an environmental project about teaching about water education and ecology. In Senegal, there's a environmental awareness on just garbage disposal. And in Sierra Leone, there is actually a dam being built near Freetown. Public health. Okay, we have somebody working on stopping alcohol consumption, so it's another awareness project. There's sanitation project in Kenya. There's a alum who's actually a medical student who's been working on giving medical assistance to Syrian refugees, and she's asked for funds to do a little bit more. And Nigeria, this was a very excellent project, and anything with a star on it has an article on the YES program's website. So please go to the article, and look for, some of these projects. She created bed sheets and actually hospital gowns for a hospital, because in one particular area, one particular hospital, a lot of times hospitals just don't have the resources for bed sheets. Here is some of the ones promoting community service in Gaza, Palestine. They're encouraging alumni and others to be involved. Civic participation in Senegal, and more, yes, volunteerism. Because as you know, volunteerism is still not prevalent in many of our countries. Here's an example. Here's the community library in South Africa. You can see that it was a build out here. And we'll talk a little bit about, what funds can be used for. And in this instance, Capital Construction did create, a build out of the shelves and things, but it was, we didn't see that as, you're not building a house from scratch or a small library from scratch. They were using an existing room in a community center, and they were able to do some little build out here, and in construction, the shelves, etc. That's a project by Norman Vesey in South Africa. Here is a project in the West Bank, Palestine. This is a project from 2013, and this is Mohammed Tahboub. And at his university, Palestine Polytech University, NADAF is their environmental awareness project, and there are many components to it. And they created videos, they painted. You can see some of these paints here. They were showing support for Gaza in this one picture that you see in the center here. They did trash cans. So there are multiple components of this project inside the university. Here is the sewing for sanitation projects, the bed sheets project. This is by Khair Aliyu from Nigeria, and you can see some of the sewing that was going on. She actually taught a group of people to sew, mostly YES alumni, women, but others joined, and others from the community who are not YES alum. really important to bring in others who are not Yes alum. Here is one of those TLT projects, and I mention this because the TLT project has a very limited amount of funds you can apply for, up to $500. And yet, with $500, this project was done in several others. So this was an entire Beale conference. This is similar to the TED Talks. You can see there was a lot of attendance. It was really on social entrepreneurism. So those are examples of the kind of projects that have already been done, and there's more ongoing all the time. So here's quick notes about the grants program. Who can apply? All Yes alumni, meaning you have to be a Yes alum now. So if you're currently in the United States on the Yes program, you cannot apply. So anybody who finished last year and came home at the end of 2014 school year. The time right now is the time to apply, and you do have until March 20th. However, the grants proposal writing does take time, so you cannot be done at the last minute. It also requires letters of support and other things where you have to take time to develop a relationship with someone you're asking for a letter of support. That could be a community organization or an NGO or even a business, and you'll be asking them for letters. There is an online system, and here's the link to it. And if you see on the Yes website the same link, the alumni page, you'll see the same link on the flyer on this project also. You'll see that you can, just either write this down now or go to the website, but this is the link. You can also, as I mentioned, download the Word template from ACE. You can download it, and you can complete it there. Today's our webinar, and it will be recorded. So those are, it's going to be recorded, and we'll be able to send the link. Actually, what will be very helpful right now is everyone who is on can please send in the chat your email. If you put your email in, I'll be able to send you the link. But we'll also make the link available to others in our marketing. So thank you, Lou. I see you're typing. I hope that Valentine and Akib will also send an email. Okay, so this is the timetable. It's really important to understand and set expectations for your project. This is, sorry for the rather small writing, but I will walk you through. So the proposal is March 20th, that is the last date. Then we will notify you June or July. It does take a while to go through the evaluation project. So you will not know until June, July. You may have a project that starts earlier. However, if that's the case, you will need to self-fund your project. So if your project starts in May, you'll need to self-fund it up to May, and then when you receive the funds, your funds can apply to your project. Oftentimes, when we receive your project and it's approved, after approval, we will go back and ask you to revise the project or ask you questions about the project. You might be asked to, go take your budget down or even up if necessary. So you should expect an interaction with us, usually with me. I am, again, Sahar Taman, and my email is yesalumni@americancouncils.org. So that's who you'll be hearing from. We will transfer funds to you, and you would need to provide us banking information, and we'll talk about this just a little bit later. You will be asked to provide an interim report. Oftentimes, it's just a check-in, what's going on, etc. And when you receive 80% of your funds, which is what you receive first, you will not receive 100%. You'll need to send us an accounting. You'll need to scan copies of receipts. You have to just write on them in English. You don't need to translate the receipts. And when we receive that very simple accounting spreadsheet, we'll go ahead and fund you the other 20%. You'll need to write an article when your project is done, and not just write an article for YES programs. We want you to really get the word out there in your community and any other source about the project. So if you create a video along the way, your photographs, and you're also asked to write a detailed report with just a little bit more information, a little more facts and figures than what would be for an article, a newspaper-style article. And finally, your project, all of it, will need to be completed by September 30th, 2016. Now, you could have a project that's done much earlier than that. You could start a project this summer and end it by, you know, August or September. Or your project can, you know, be foreseen to start next January and in March, or you have other options. So there is a timetable you'll be writing about when your project will start. Okay, so how do we select projects? How do we say, okay, this project is worthy? What is the criteria? We look at the objectives and say, is the project contributing to the development of the alumni's country, also contributing to his development? We look at that constituency or target audience. Who's going to benefit from the project? Is it just a few people? Is it a larger group of people? That target audience, are these people in need of that project? Will they benefit? Feasibility. You know, we have a lot of ideas, but it's important that ideas are well thought out and realistic. Will they actually happen? Is the idea as laid out possible? And then results. We really want to see those results. How is the alum evaluating, how, you know, and how are they going to share those results? Because we want the project to have, you know, an assessment, but we also want it to have a sustainability component. A little more about the objectives, more details. I think I've gone through some of these, but does the project contribute? Does it contribute to the social, economic, civil development of your country, or very specifically your own community, local community? And does it contribute to your personal development? When we look at the constituency of the target audience, does the applicant demonstrate the need? Do you know for sure that this group of students is in need of ICT training or information training, computer training? Or are you assuming that? Have you gone to them and asked them, this is what's needed? Does the project benefit a variety of constituency, a variety of individuals, different ethnic groups, social, religious? And one of the things that really we always look for is when we talk about the target audience, that the applicant is showing a respect, because you're building a trust with that target audience, target population, the community. So when you describe them, it's very important to say that this is a group of individuals who are illiterate, or there is an adult illiteracy issue, and you want to work on that project. That's an example. Instead of saying this is an ignorant group of adults, that does indicate to us, to the funder, to the reader of your project, that this person is not thoughtful or considerate or respectful to that target community. Again, we'll talk about feasibility. One of the things that's important in feasibility that is there cost sharing, and cost sharing doesn't have to be money, but it's money or resources, in-kind donations that supplement your project. And one of the reasons that it's important is it shows that you've built relationships. You've brought partner organizations in, and they buy into your project, are excited to support you, also understand that it's helpful. And you will be required to have a letter from support from that organization. It's a very simple letter, and I'll show you an example. Let's be realistic, you know, about the project. Is it too big? Is the scope too big? Are you going to try to, for example, provide computer education for 1,000 people? Can you really do that? You know, it might be possible, but perhaps you being too ambitious in your project. If that's the case, sometimes you might actually win the award, and we'll work with you and say, is that realistic? What's your target audience? Could it be maybe 200 people? Tell us about how you're going to evaluate yourself, your project. Give us some qualitative data, narrative data, as well as quantitative numbers, and how you're going to share that project. Okay, I'm going to just take a few more minutes to talk about being realistic. So what does that mean, being realistic? One of the first ways to be realistic is to ask others, to assess if you're being realistic, is to ask others, hey, do you think this project will work? And one of the groups that you can work with is your YES office. They can say, hey, will this work politically, socially, culturally in our community? You want to make sure you communicate with affected partners at their expected level of involvement. So if you have a business that said, yeah, we'll provide you copying, we'll provide you copying materials, and you assume that they're also going to let you use their computers and let you use their computers, their hall space, if you haven't communicated that, that's not realistic. That business may have said, I only will provide copying, and that's what you get. So set your expectations. Explain the project and the goals, so that buy-in to the partners, whether it's the target population, someone who represents the target population, sometimes it's a chief, sometimes it's local authorities, and sometimes it's the business partner or your partner that's providing cost sharing, providing support. You need to be aware of the political and social situations in your country. Many of our countries, civil society work, what we call community service, what we are calling sometimes volunteerism, is seen as political activism, and it can be seen by authorities as something that is a security issue, a national or local security issue. So learn about those laws affecting NGOs. As you know, in some of our countries, an NGO has very limited rights to receive funds, etc. That's in some countries. You also really need to understand banking and financial responsibility. If you receive the funds, for example, will there be a tax on them? It's up to you to find out. On our end, the funder's end, we won't know that. You're the one who knows your community. And the last thing about being realistic is do not put yourself or anyone else in danger. Maybe you might not be affected. Let's say you are someone in your community who's okay and are a student and have a good standing in your community. But if you do something that may create danger for others, your target population, then you have to think about your responsibility towards them. So that's being realistic. Okay, about the use of grants fund. So here's some notes. In general, our grants do not fund, although exceptions can be made. So the first question is these computers. We don't fund what we call capital construction. You can't build a building with the funds. You really can't do something that is rather a big project. While we want sustainability, we don't want to create buildings, things like that. Computers is also an issue because if you're buying the computer, the question is, what is the computer going to be used for after the project is done? So if you're buying a set of computers to do presentations, for example, what's happening to them afterwards? One computer. What's happening to that computer? If you say, okay, well, in your proposal, that computer will then be given to the YES Alumni office and the YES Alumni will use it, that's fine. We may say, go ahead, that's okay. If you say, for example, that computer, we're going to be doing this project at this school, and we're going to leave the computer at the school, we'll go ahead and consider that also. So it really, you need to justify your purchases. Another thing we generally don't fund are t-shirts. There's a lot of t-shirts, and unfortunately, we find that some budgets have a large amount of the budget going towards the t-shirt. We do understand sometimes you need visibility, you may need to let people know that you're wearing t-shirts, the YES program, that you're doing this because of the YES program, but again, you've got to talk with us. The next little icon with the dollar sign says you cannot pay yourself. You're not going to receive a salary from this, and you cannot pay people who are working as staff on this project. You can pay honorarium. So if you have a doctor coming and he says, okay, I'll be able to work at this clinic, however, I need, $50 just to be able to come, you can make arrangements and say, yeah, we'll pay that. Usually that doctor is donating in kind his time. So he may actually, if it was for commercial purposes, he might actually be receiving $100 when he goes to do a clinic visit. But he's saying, okay, just give me the 50, that's my honoraria, and the other 50, you can write that in as donation. Cost sharing. Other examples are if you need a speaker, if you need an expert, it's important to get an expert. And sometimes we do need to pay those speakers. An expert may be someone who's going to be teaching about banking. I mean, there are skills that you don't have that is important to bring experts. And then the final little icon on the side, if you'll see, these are the elephant and the donkey, which represent the American political system, the two political parties. I know in your countries you're going to have different icons, many political parties sometimes, but the point is we don't support political campaigns, supporting a particular individual, nothing that is actually towards the political process. The other exception in general is if you're an employee of any of our partners, American Councils or any of the other partners, then you cannot apply. If you are a part-time coordinator, part-time, go ahead and write to me, yes, alumni at americancouncils.org, and let me know. Here's an example of a letter of support. So now we're moving on to the components of the application. You will need a letter of support, sometimes more than one. In this example, you can see it's just a single page. It's actually from the hospital itself. And if you are able to read, it's a little hard to read. It says, we, this facility, that in this instance, we're going to receive your bed sheets. That's all it says. Just even to receive the bed sheets, this is the project with Khair Ali from Nigeria. She needed to show us that the hospitals were going to take the bed sheets, because there's no point of producing the bed sheets if you don't have a partner that's willing to accept them. Some hospitals may actually say no. We have a different standard. We must purchase our bed sheets from a hospital supply company for sanitation reasons or whatever. But in this instance, she's, it's clear that she was able to get this letter of support. Your letter of support may actually say something like, we're going to give you $200 plus the use of our computers for 3 weeks. A little bit more clarity on the cost sharing. Okay, so when you look at the application, you will see that the very first question really on the project, the very first large question is project summary. What's this project about? And this is very important because, some of the other questions you're going to be doing a lot of explanation and justification. However, the project summary is what enables you to clearly explain the project. So it's concise, okay, and very not more than a minute, really, in your ability to read it. Now, I think you may have heard of something called an elevator speech. So an elevator speech is this concise, planned, practice description of your program and project, and your mother should be able to understand it in the time it takes for you to ride an elevator. So it's a sales pitch. And in many ways, the project summary is quite like a sales pitch. It's a good idea if you write it as a sales pitch and memorize it even, so people can say, hey, what's your project about? You'll be able to tell them in a minute. The summary should communicate who you are really quickly, because if you're going to someone, including the reader of the application, they don't know you. Let us know a little bit about you. What's your concern? Okay. What is it that you propose to do? How do you propose to do it? Give us an idea of start and finish. Tell us where. And actually, oftentimes, it's important to tell us where and why. Why are you doing it there? Tell us about the cost and how much time you're going to invest. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Here's an example 1, and here's an example 2. So you can see there about a project, which is a kids' summer camp, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. The Kids Summer Camp Project, this is example 1. The Kids Summer Camp Project is an activity that will be held on weekends from Friday afternoon until Sunday. It'll give more than 120 poor and needy kids the opportunity to play games, learn things, and be taught some morals and manners. However, the main focus will be on cooperation. The students will have heard much about this from their parents and immediate communities, about people who are different, but they've never interacted with them. They will build a foundation of cooperation and acceptance towards those who are different from them. The Red Cross will be providing assistance and participating. The project will also involve Yes Alumni. So this looks pretty good. It looks like, you know, the writer here has thought through some things. But has he answered who he or she is? Has he answered the timeline really for this project? He has not. So the example 2 is the better example. It's more specific, more clear. I will lead a group of Yes Alumni to design and develop a 3-day kids summer camp. So we know exactly the extent of the project for 120 children, and the ages are 6 to 8. I have experience working with kids, so we know something about the writer, and I volunteer in my old elementary school as a tutor. So we know that this writer is someone who knows about kids. The targeted participants are children from underprivileged neighborhoods around the capital city, some of whom are homeless, and some had to drop out of school. We know a lot more now about who's the target audience. They have few opportunities to learn while having fun, and they generally do not have interactions with kids from different religions or different ethnic backgrounds. The camp would be an opportunity to play while learning, using games and activities that develop confidence, communication skills, and learning about others who are different from them through cooperation. So we know some of the goals: developing confidence, the skills of communication. I will develop a detailed curriculum based on my experience and with the help of the International Committee of the Red Cross, who will partner with us on this project by providing materials and offer experienced resources for the camp. So we know a lot more about what the ICRC is going to do for the project. And the budget is $1,980. And in addition to that, the Red Cross will provide $200 for in-kind donations. So you can see, if you read that project, this example, if I read it, we're really clear. If we read example 1, going back to example 1, it's not so clear. So this is what we look for, really clear project summary. You'll find there are other questions in the application, but another important is how you answer your budget. You need to not only describe, put the amount of the cost and have a very short description, you actually need to do what's called a budget narrative, or an item narrative. So you will see here in the example here that there is an item narrative comma. So in addition to the budget category, the quick item description, in addition to what you are asking for the grant funding, the amount that will be used for the cost sharing, and the total, we need to have an item narrative. So here's an example. This is budget category travel. This is a bus for participants. Now, if you just said that, we wouldn't know exactly what that's about. That's $150 that you're asking the grant will pay, and $50 is cost sharing. But without the item narrative, which basically says this is the bus cost, this is an example here, this is the bus cost for taking participants from city A to city B. The cost is $50 an hour, and it will be 4 hours coming and going. The bus company has agreed to provide 1 hour for free. So we know exactly where's the cost sharing coming from, why it's $150. We just get a clear idea. Each of your item numbers will not always have a cost share. You might not have a cost share for every item. You actually may only have a cost share for 1 or 2. So again, in the budget, please explain. That's what an item narrative is. Explain what it's for. Now, we've been talking about in-kind donations from organizations and individuals. So this could include goods. So it could be equipment and furniture. You could have a space, like this is the library. You can put your library up here, and it's actually a permanent space. They can say, okay, we will, you have to pay for the space, but we will pay for the utilities. So they might give refreshments. All of those are examples of goods that are in-kind donation. Another example is people. If you have a professional who's volunteering, that's an in-kind donation. Services. You may get someone to actually come and do construction, build the shelves. Printing, for example, someone who's going to say, hey, we'll do your public relations and promotions for this project. In some countries, there are actually American centers or American corners, and they will provide internet access to alumni or other groups, and you have to find those and work with them. Ask them for their help. That might be a good resource. Okay, so now you have been approved, and we need to, early on, up front, think about how you're going to receive funds. So you'll be receiving funds from the United States. We will be sending you U.S. dollars. In general, you will get a contract. So if you've been approved, you'll get a letter. It's just an acceptance letter, and when you sign it, that is a contract between us. Very simple letter says, you're going to do this project, you're going to do it in this time with this budget, and you will sign. When you get that acceptance letter back, when we get it back from you, it needs to have bank account information. You have to have or should have a U.S. dollars account. We transfer U.S. dollars to U.S. dollars. If there is not a U.S. dollars account, if you cannot have, do not have one, and you cannot open one, and for whatever reasons you cannot, are not able to. In some instances, you have to be a certain age to open a bank account, or to have a U.S. dollars account. Sometimes you must. It depends on your country. Depends on your bank requirements. You must have a certain amount of money to open a U.S. dollars account. If you can't, you can ask your yes country office if they will accept this fund on your behalf. They will only be a conduit. They will receive the funds, and they will give the money to you. That is the best way that it's done, because you are the grantee and you're responsible. Your yes country office may not wish to assist you. And the reason is, again, there could be several reasons. So they're not obliged to do it. They, as an NGO, may not want to receive funds from the United States other than what they've already established. It might not be a good idea for them. They may not legally have the right to do that. So they're not obliged. As I mentioned before, we generally work with you to try to find an answer, but think about that. Are you going to be eligible to create a U.S. dollars account, etc.? 80% of the funding, you'll get it, and we won't get the balance until we get the accounting for the 80%, okay? And actually, that's really the end of our presentation. I'm wondering if there are any questions. I hope that, I see there are no questions at this time. I hope that, you know, if you do have questions, again, I'm going to write my email that you can. It's yesalumni@americancouncils.org. It's on this last page of questions, saying questions. Here's yesalumni@americancouncils.org. You are welcome to submit questions. We will have this recorded, so this actual webinar will be recorded. As I mentioned here under the files, you will be able to download these two files. You can do that now. You could also come back to this very same site and be able to download them then, those two. Again, remember that the link to going directly to, I'm going to go back to that link. Let's see. The link to going directly to the application, the online application, let's see where that is right here. ace@americancouncils.org/yesalumni. So again, any questions that we have from Lou or Valentine or Aki? Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for participating. I know there were just a few of us on this webinar, but we do find that people will go and see the recording, and they will go and get information. So again, feel free to write to me. I would be very happy to receive an application from you. Please note it will be evaluated by a large group of people, and I'm sure we are happy to support, to support you. You will be supported if you receive the grant. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. And looking forward